Am I too old to learn the piano? This is something I'm going to address in this video once and for all. And if you watch until the end, I'm going to provide you with a helpful tool to start learning piano easily, regardless of age. So here's the thing. Most of my students who I teach online in terms of my courses or whatever, most of them are actually older adults, people who are, who have older kids, who are out the house and they have the time to learn piano. And the thing is, most of my students, since most of them are older adults, the number one question outside of, what kind of keyboard do I need to get, would be in a different video. But the biggest question I get before people buy my courses is, am I too old to learn? And I wanted to address this because I think that we tend to subscribe to what the world tells us. We're too blah to do this. We're too blah to do that. We're too old to do this. Oh, you're past your prime. Why would you want to learn piano at this age? Most prodigies, they start learning at 7, 8, 9 years old. So we kind of subscribe to these different mindsets, and we talk ourselves out of doing a lot of things we want to do. And it's not just about piano, but it's also about other goals like starting a business or getting married or whatever. We always tell ourselves, oh, it can't happen for us because of X, Y, and Z, which really at the end of the day doesn't even have anything to do with the goal, which I think is the most ironic thing. Age does not have to do with your ability to learn piano, but somehow we've attached those two things, which is really interesting. Now, am I saying that age is not going to have an impact on learning piano? That's not what I'm saying, but one of the things that comes with age is the different phases in life that kind of veer us into different directions, which might make it difficult. So one of the reasons why you may feel like you passed your prime is because, and before I went to teaching online, I was teaching private lessons in my local area. I'm not doing that anymore, but most of my students that I was teaching in person were actually kids, right? So the parents were hiring me and I was teaching their kids. And then when I went online, most of my students were older adults who wanted to learn for themselves. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed, one of the biggest differences I've noticed with kids and adults, and this is the reason why kids have more consistent, or they seem to learn faster, quote unquote, than adults. And this is the reason why people say, oh, I'm too old to learn because I can't learn fast enough. I can't learn like the kids do. One of the things you can't ignore is the fact that kids have a more structured schedule than adults do. So when you're a kid, right, and you have someone else managing your schedule, holding you accountable, making sure that you get your homework done, making sure that you get, to your sports practice, make sure that you get to school, right? When someone else is holding you accountable to doing your work, it's easier for you to actually get the work done. And because most parents, as you know, most of you who are watching are probably parents yourselves, it's imperative for your kids to have some kind of structure and organization. So because the kids have more structure, they were able to practice, they were able to show up for their lessons because their parents kind of instilled that in them, right? But what happens once we become adults? We have the freedom to make our own decisions, but sometimes with that, if we're not careful, we don't tend to have the same level of discipline that as we did when someone else was making us do what we needed to do, right? So now, once you go to college and, once you have other obligations, especially as you get older, you start to get married, have kids, all of these other things start to get in the way of the things that we would like to do, right? But they're not as high on the priority list as the things that we have to do. So it's easy to put aside as adults the things that are like the hobbies, the interests, because we're adults now, we have other important things we didn't have to think about as kids, but also because we're adults, we don't have that person, we don't have someone that's holding us accountable. So a lot of these play a major role in why adults aren't able to learn as fast as kids. It has nothing to do, it has less to do with our ability to learn faster. It has more to do with kids being more consistent and being more disciplined with their schedule, right? And the other thing is, kids may be like sponges and they may tend to absorb a lot faster, but I think that has to do with because they don't have as much responsibilities as we do. That's just my theory. But I also don't want you to think like, oh, I can't learn as fast as kids do, right? And I don't want you to allow that to discourage you because, again, there's so many other factors that come into play in terms of our speed of learning that fall outside of age. So a lot of the students I have, and the way that you learn as you get older is different too. So how you practice, what you practice can play a major role in how fast you learn something. I've done a bunch of videos about this, about what you need to practice, because you can practice for hours, right? And still not get anything done. But that's because the way in which you're practicing is not effective. You're not retaining anything that you're learning. Whereas if you have the right practice technique, which I'll get to, that's going to be, if you watch until the end of this video, I will show you a tool that that will help you with that. So the thing is, if you know what to practice, and you can not only condense the time it takes to practice, but you actually end up learning a lot more. Before I continue, I do have a free 3-step piano video, or piano in 3 steps video. That's great for beginners. There's a link in the description box if you want to sign up for that. Now, here's the thing. What I want you to do, now that you have a better understanding of age not really being as much of a factor, just the age number itself, right? Again, you're never too old to learn piano. If you can still function, if you can still, do your daily tasks, it's really no different. The biggest component in this stage in your life is to make sure that you give yourself the discipline to learn, right? That's the most important thing. So you want to be able to sit down, take some time to practice, or take some time, maybe 15 minutes a day. Even if you can't do it every day, do it at least minimum 5 times, 5 days out of the week, right? Just doing that, you can see a major difference in your ability to learn the piano. And again, this is regardless of what age you are. And the other thing too is to be patient. Like, don't compare yourself to, or don't compare your pacing to someone else's pacing. That's pretty much like what kills happiness in life, is comparing ourselves to other people. Oh, they're doing it faster than me, or they're doing it sooner than me. That means it can't work for me. No, everyone's pacing is different. Everyone's circumstance is different. So don't focus on other people. Focus on your pacing, focus on your progress, and I guarantee you'll be much more satisfied with your results. With that said, with my students, what I do is, in order for you to be really proficient in playing when it comes to melodies, when it comes to chords, when it comes to coordination, you still need to get the rudiments down. So if you want to get, if you want to sit down and practice for the first time and you need something to practice, this is one of the tools that you can start with, and it's really, really helpful. You need to know, and I say your fundamentals, I'm talking about your scales, because scales is where song melodies and where chords come from. So it's kind of like the roadmap for building those melodies and chords. So you need to know where to draw those melodies and chords from, and scales are like the bare basics that you need to work with. So there's a book that you can order either on Amazon, or you can find, if you have a Sam Ash that's near you, there's a book by James Bastian. It's called Scales, Chords, and Arpeggios. This gives you all the scales for every single key. So here it gives you like the C major scale, which is on this side. It starts you from the very beginning. This is just 1 octave, da, 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 right? And then it gives you 2 octaves, and then it gives you some chords at the bottom. So once you get some sight reading basics down, and if you look at my playlist for sight reading, I do a whole, video on how to get going with sight reading too. But again, this gives you all the scales you need to know: the major scales, the happy scales, the minor scales, the sad scales, because all those things are the things that you would need to know, or that you would need to practice before you really get into any of the heavy stuff. Even when it comes to genres, they are all rooted, every last one of them, in this, right? So here's the thing. In this video, so before I wrap up, let me make sure I got everything covered. So either to the left or to the right of me is going to be a playlist of other practice tools and the things that you would need to know before you need to learn piano. That way you can get your head in the game and be able to have all the tools you need to practice. So again, if you are watching this video, just check out some of the other videos in this playlist. Either it's going to be to the right or to the left, one of those. You'll see it pop up. You'll see some other videos of things that you would need to know before learning piano. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you guys in another video.